I am Dr. Marcia, and I am your visionary and host. And I have another speaker ready to hit the stage. And if you're in the chat, I want you to say, I'm here. Go ahead and say, I'm here. Okay, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Here to hear the powerful stories, the transformation of the speakers. Next, coming to the stage is Dr. Carl Barnes. And Dr. Barnes, he is also known as Dr. Resilience. And he is a highly sought after speaker, a resilient living coach, and an accomplished U.S. Navy veteran. And he's also an author. And he is transforming lives through his powerful messages of overcoming adversity and achieving greatness. It's time for Dr. Carl Barnes to the stage. And this is the Destiny Exposure Summit, and I have Dr. Carl Barnes again. Welcome to the summit. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Excited about this whole Destin Exposure Summit experience.
Yes, yes. I cannot wait either. And I have been following you, and you're doing some big things. But I know I gave you the introduction, but I want you just to kind of say hello, introduce yourself, and say kind of just who you are. Let's start there.
Look great. I'm Dr. Carl, also known as Dr. Resilience. I'm a retired Navy veteran of 35 years in the Navy. Wow, that's a lot of years of your life. But most of my adult lifehood have been serving the cloth and don the cloth of the nation. I'm from a small country that I say the dirt roads of Wilson, North Carolina. My goals were to leave that dirt road, travel the world, and get an education. All those things were wrapped up in one, but there was a price to pay for that because, of course, you had to get in the Navy. But I'm looking back and I say, would I do that all over again? Absolutely, because it gave me the challenge and experience of a lifetime to learn a lot of leadership skills, get a lot of tools for my toolkit, been through crisis, been through valleys, a plethora of platforms of ships. So we could talk about turbulent seas, but that sums it all up. But it all started, leaving that dirt road and saying I had a bigger dream, bigger than I could even imagine that I would see and involve myself in. So I say I have evolved during those 3 decades of being in the Navy that taught me a lot, that I'm here to share those life experiences and those lessons learned to someone else from my experience so they won't have to go through it and know they have to travel this road alone.
Ooh, Dr. Carl, you said 35 years in the Navy. You talked about stormy seas, and I see the sign behind you that says
Yes.
resilient sailing, and I can't even wrap my head around what you have seen in your career. And so, if you, what I want, as I said, thank you for your service, but I want you to, can you just take us back? Maybe some of those stormy seas that you've had to navigate through. Can you just share?
I like your nautical term. So the first thing I had to navigate was getting through the doors of the Navy. You see, I went to the recruiting station at least 3 times, knocking at that door, and they were saying no because you had to take these standardized tests, ASVAB tests, determine okay, what technical school should I go to if I qualify. But I didn't qualify to go in any school, so I went in on the striker program, which meant that I got through the door. I said, just get me through the door. The rest is history. And I started at the lowest of the lowest as an E1, Seaman Recruit Barnes. No Dr. Barnes, no Commander Barnes, Seaman Recruit Barnes, meaning I went in at the very lowest of level, scraping paint, tying knots. But you know what? I gained a lot of experience from that because, as I rose up through the ranks, I look back and my great humble beginnings, it taught me a lot of lessons about humility and getting rid of the ego. But that was the first challenge. Went through a divorce. That was another challenge. Turned down for not one, but several, at least four commissioning programs where they said no. And I always say, sometimes when the system says no, a higher creator God, sometimes he says yes, but you got to go through that period of no's to appreciate the yes. So those rejection letters that I received saying I didn't qualify led to something bigger. And also the leap of faith when I got out at my 15-year time in the Navy. That's a whole different storm there. But being on several ships, when you mentioned storms, I was what's called a master helmsman, which meant that when the ship was going through restricted maneuvers, turbulent seas, I was called to the bridge because I was a master helmsman. I rode the ship through those storms when it was like we was doing dunks under the water. I mean, little in a frigate, we were bouncing up and down. I was the person on the bridge that could drive and steady the ship its course until we got the better sea. So I speak from life experience of turbulence, literally turbulence, but I know we might say, well, I'm not on the ship, but we still go through turbulence in life. So that's why I said life lessons that I can equate to on the ship and on personal life ventures as well.
Look, you said a master helmsman, so that when the ship was going up and down, you were able to navigate, to steer the ship. That
Yes.
that right there is, and not only in on the ship itself, but you said even in life. And now I want to let's get more perspective, okay? You talked about your 35 years in the Navy and the turbulence and the ups and the downs and the rejection letters, but I know that your story of rejection started way before then. Can you share with us what that was?
Thank you. That first rejection was conception. I wouldn't be before this audience in which you, Dr. Marcia, if my mother would not have listened to the voice of God when she was about to have an abortion and terminate this person before today. But you know what? As I look back, my mother gave birth to resilience. So resilience, as Jeremiah said, I knew it was in your mother's womb. Well, I have to believe it now because it makes so much sense. He knew me when I was inside my mother's womb. They said, you can't do this. Lo and behold, it's like, no, I got destiny and purpose for this child. This young man is going to touch the world, telling his story of resilience, but it also stemmed from inception. You see, my mother could have taken a lot of options. No, teenage mother, but God intervened. I said he flipped the script. Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
He flipped the script because you know what? He said, I'm in charge of this journey now. I'm taking it from here. You just deliver this 9-pound baby boy and let me do the rest. And I'll take care of you and him for the rest of their lives. And to this day, my mother said, I'm so glad I listened to the voice of God because that's where the first rejection started. Not knowing I was going to be on this earth, touching lives, serving in the Navy. This would not have all happened if my mother would have went to the clinic and terminated, as I say, control, alt, delete this purpose-born,
Mm-hmm.
resilient child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Drop the mic, Dr. Carl. I'm You are preaching up in here. And I know that you were a chaplain in the Navy. And where I want us to go is that your mother could have aborted you. Okay? That's a life and death situation. You've been on a ship and have gotten into life and death situations. But now I want you to speak as the chaplain on a ship and some of the experiences in the men and women who you were called to serve.
Oh, wow. There are many. And if I could also lay the foundation for this, as a Navy chaplain, I get to wear the uniform of the Coast Guard and the Marine Corps. So I experienced all three branches, as I say, assimilated with the Coast Guard, crisis, and the Marine Corps in the ditch. But I remember one significant incident. My first tour as a Navy chaplain on board the USS Carter Hall. We're in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea and loving life, pulling to the port call, and all of a sudden I hear, man down, man down. When you hear that, that means something has happened. A crisis has happened. I was on the bridge, beautiful day, looking out, on the bridge with the captain and the crew, and I ran to the flight deck. We had the Marines embarked on board, and man down meant that some tragic had taken place. A young man that was doing maintenance, Marine, doing maintenance under a Humvee, 5 ton. This is a lot of steel, and it crushed his skull. And I ran to the flight deck. It's like, yeah, all right, I'm the chaplain here. And what I saw, I said the books and seminary did not prepare me for. I had to look within, keep a straight face, and say, you know what? I've got to get through this because, I'm the chaplain. We've got to prepare for memorial service. People are contaminated. People have seen this crisis. What am I going to do? Okay, now it's like power. That's when God had to kick in because I'm saying no book in the world would have briefed me and gave me the tools to navigate that situation. But because of my strong faith and because I knew my upbringing, I did what I had to do. We prepared the ship for memorial service as all those men and women that were scrubbing those particles off that flight deck. Because why? We had a mission. We had to go back out to sea. We couldn't, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but. Chaplain, everything's in your hand. Debriefing. I'm contaminated myself. Being contaminated means I saw the flight deck. I saw the blood. I saw the matter. I saw this, and I'm here with a straight face. Can't cry, can't do anything because all eyes are on the chaplain. So myself and the priest, we had already started doing the debriefing in small groups, talking to people, let them talk things out to get them through and prepare a major memorial service. And I remember there was a gunnery sergeant on board the ship, or maybe master gunnery. He had gone through a traumatic experience in his life. It wasn't until we had that memorial service that he got closure. Now remember, I'm contaminated. I saw this, but I had to keep a straight face because the ship had a mission. We could not stop the mission because of this. It was tragic. However, we had to get the crew together, get them focused on the mission, going back to sea. That was an experience I will never forget because it was crisis, and it seemed like it happened just yesterday where I could see this young man doing his job and an accident happened. Okay. And a lot of accidents happen, and sometimes we don't have the tools like, how am I going to get through this? I say you have to rely on the strength that's higher than you, a resource that's higher than you are, because you know what? That's when my faith kicked in and say, God, you gotta let me get through this because my mind cannot fathom the books. The knowledge wasn't there in college to say, how do you prepare for this scenario? It came and it went, and I thank God that I was able to bring closure to a ship, go out to sea. I got my healing later in life, but you know what? At that point, I had to keep my eyes focused on the crew. Maintaining, getting ready to finish a 6-month deployment. As tragic as it was, we had to proceed with life and the mission of the Navy.
Yeah, wow, that is a harrowing story. And thank you for sharing it and for you being able to keep your composure to walk through it. And so I want you, Dr. Resilience is what I'm going to call you. And I want you to speak to those individuals who have felt like they're being crushed by life right now. Okay? Those that think that, or maybe look, they've seen too much. They've experienced too much. I'm going to use your word contaminated. And I see the book behind you talks about the 10 lessons to persevere in life's stormy seas. Can you share some of the steps, some of the lessons that they can use to get through this tragedy?
Absolutely. And they are tragic. And I said, you know what? The first thing is a mindset. Having the right mindset meant a lot. Imagine if I didn't have the right mindset and I would just broke down in front of the crew. They had to heal me off to the hospital. It's like, what good was that? But my mindset had to stay focused. Even though I was contaminated and what I saw was real, the mindset is what kept me, but also a strong faith. Because just because you believe and have faith don't mean you're not going to have those knocking the doors. It was tragic. But I believe that faith was my foundation. And knowing that a few of us could get together and pray. And we had prayer meeting, but also the mindset and also listening. That's not a time you do a lot of talking. People, they had to go to debriefing. You had to allow them to talk it out. Talk it out. Because sometimes we keep stuff within us, but a situation as tragic as that was, all we did in the debrief was sit in our circle and let each member experience and tell us what you're going through. Some of them say nothing, but the fact that they were still there in a circle for debriefing, they heard other people's story and healing started to take place. Some cried, some were stoic, some, I'm okay, but deep inside, being in a group of people of like-minded help them to navigate that particular situation. And you might say, well, my situation might be on the ship. Well, maybe you're navigating finances. Maybe you're financing, navigating divorce, terminal illness, the right mindset, prayer and faith. As I say, prayer, faith, and therapy goes together. But all those ingredients will help you, because I grew up as a PK. I knew about demons and all this stuff, but at the time we needed professional help. And sometimes you have to got to say, I need professional help. I need to get through this because I cannot manage this alone. And you can't go through life alone knowing that you're by yourself. No one is an island to themselves, because you have to have someone there to go by your side. And the good thing about being a Navy chaplain, it wasn't always what I said. When people had mental health issues, especially suicide word, that S word, what I would do is knowing they need help. Sometimes they were afraid to go down to the medical or to the ward. So what I would do, I said, look, I won't say nothing. I'll walk with you and we'll sit right beside you. And they knew exactly what was going on, because they felt that, ooh, what a sigh of relief, because they were there not by themselves, because the chaplain sat right beside them, didn't say nothing, but the fact that my presence with them, they were able to say that I'm going through this crisis, I'm suicidal, and I need help. And I never said a word. It was just my presence, being beside them to say, you know what? I'm going to walk this journey with you, and you don't have to walk it alone. And in life, don't walk it alone. Find that trusted person, that confidant. If it's a chaplain, your imam, your pastor, rabbi, whomever it is, your best friend that you trust, say, I need help. And I can recall countless stories of people that I have walked with them, sat by them, visit them, and didn't say a word, because of confidentiality, and because that trust was built between the two of us. They were able to succeed and get the help and go forward in life, instead of letting coulda, woulda, shoulda, but be their friend. They confide in someone that had the cloth of the nation. They sit at the cross there. They know what it is, like, oh my God, but I kept a straight face. I didn't cry, but I had to be strong for the next individual. And sometimes you got to be strong for
Yeah.
someone else. It wasn't about me. I was hurt. I want to break down and cry, but that is not the time to do that. You want to get somebody who's strong, who can be there for you, to be your foundation. Because sometimes we all need
Mm.
someone else to bounce things off of. I've been there and done it. I'm human too. But in those crisis situations, all eyes are on the chaplain. You do not want him to break down. The same with the Marine Corps. I'm not a Marine, but let me tell you, putting that big old 70-pound pack back on me and walking 5 and 10 miles. I didn't want to do that, but the Marines don't want to see you give up either. You
Mm-hmm.
might have callus on your feet at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, they say, you know what? He did it. He made the hump with us. And let me tell you, I did that. Feet were hurting, sleeping in tents in South Korea, freezing, taking cold showers. I didn't want to do it, but you know what? The fact that I endured with them, that helped them say, you know what? You're one of us now. I'm not a Marine, but the fact that the chaplain, he did all what we did. He did his PFA test. He ran the 2 miles and 5 miles, and I hate running, but you never give up. I might have come in last place, but I finished the
The
race. And I'm
race.
telling
That's
you out
right.
there, finish the
Finish the
race.
race. Yes. Yes. So, Dr. Carl, with all of your experience, I know that you are helping people finish the race. You're creating this safe space. I know I've seen you on television shows, getting interviewed. I know you've had multiple books that are either published or about to be published. I've seen you being invited to do retreats. Can you just kind of share a little bit about what you've been doing and how someone can work with you?
Thank you, very good. So what I've been doing is working, with my mentors and coaches to develop my branding of coaching. I call myself Dr. Resilience, so I like to work with men, and I work with anyone else, but more importantly, men that have been rejection, that have been in rejection stage and taken to resilience. So from rejection to resilience, that they can find wholeness, so they can find their purpose, so they can find their voice again. Maybe they've gone through a traumatic divorce as I have. Maybe they've had some letdowns as I've had, letters of rejection. I've had all of that. And those turbulent seasons in life, I'm here to guide them. I say, take them from their dirt road to their promised land. Why? Because I walked those shoes. I've experienced experiences, and I can equate and I can also relate to them, the hurt and pain. Yes, I've cried. Men don't cry. Men cry. I think the next book says men do cry. I've cried and I'm emotional, but I also know that how to channel that in for good, because sometimes men need to see other men cry. It's like, wow, that's called vulnerability. And I become very vulnerable. So as I help men to navigate their storms, whatever that storm is, I call it the storms of rejection, but going from rejection to resilience. And they can reach me very easily. Email is drresilience701 at gmail.com. I'm on all social platforms. Uh, Instagram at Dr. Carl Barnes, and Carl Barnes on LinkedIn as well as Facebook. But also know that I'm the one that's the doctor for resilience. You have a medical doctor, you got a dentist for the teeth, but what about the heart, soul, and mind? That's what Dr. Resilience come in. I am the subject matter expert, the SME, when it comes to resilience because I've walked the shoes. Remember, it started from conception, almost being diverted, an abortion. So this didn't just start overnight. 30 plus years of my life serving this country, beginning at birth because God had a purpose. He had a reason for me to say, you know what? You were born resilient, not for you, but to help someone else. Those men that are struggling, that are having a hard time, those young men out there that need hope, they need a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm struggling here. Raise your hand and say, I need help. I'll raise both of them and say, I'm here as Dr. Resilience. I'm here to take you from your rejection to your resilience.
So powerful, so needed. And I know I can say this, that sometimes men have trouble asking for help. And I love it that you are so available, you are so open, and not only are you open, but you've done the work. Okay, you've been able to lead men who are contemplating suicide, who are having a tough time, who need to um, learn those tips. And so I know, I don't know, maybe can you speak? I know you can't speak directly, but I know your clients also have gotten some wins. And if you can just kind of just talk kind of globally about that experience.
Well, I like that because everybody gets a win. So I said, I picture me as the life ring. I throw the life ring out, but sometimes we all need a life ring. I used to do my talk about suicide, and I walk around with this life ring on my back because I'm very visual. And people say, you know what? Who's going to throw the lifeline to you? I had a client about a week ago. His biggest breakthrough was that he was concerned about his schedule and his work. And I said one thing to him. I said, take out your calendar. Let me see your calendar, and I'm gonna tell you what's going on. I said, on your calendar, I see everybody up there but you. I said, when are you gonna own the day? And you just saw it. Oh my God! It's like, are you serious? So I said, when do you get up in the morning? 5 o'clock. I said, you should put your name at the top of that list every morning for you. And he said, you know what? Since then, we've had another session. He said, I'm my own Fortune 500 company. I said, the way you work with one of those, make yourself a Fortune 500 company. Make yourself the priority. Put your name on your calendar because you have all this fluff on this calendar for the business, for this person, that person, and you're not up there. That's why you don't have time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Self-care. And the other day we talked about it, and right now he's planning on doing a trip, just get on a train and do something he's never done. Go outside of his state lines and go visit another country, no, another city or state, and just free his mind. I never thought about that. It's like
Mm.
it doesn't cost much, it's easy, but also it's something different. But the fact that he owned and said that I am my own Fortune 500 company and I own how I start my day. And ever since then, he has been on the high because he said, I've been missing it. I've been doing everybody's schedule and I write the schedule, but I never once saw my name on the schedule. Once he did that, he is a changed person. I said, you know what?
Yeah.
All because we listened to him and then we found out that he found out the answer that he wasn't making himself a priority. So I
Yes.
said, now he said, I'm my own Fortune 500 company, me. And
Yeah.
sometime in life, we have to think about that because we give all of our assets to other people. What
Mm-hmm.
about this Fortune 500 company? This
Mm-hmm.
should be the priority. And that's a major breakthrough for this
Yeah.
brother. And he is so happy. It's like, wow. It's like, can we end it now? But I said, no, we're going to keep going on because that was one breakthrough. So we take it in small increments. But to see the excitement on his face when he said, wow, I own my day when I get up in the morning first and
Yeah,
foremost.
that's good. There's a coaching paradigm that says small hinges swing big doors. And what you gave
Like it.
him is you gave him freedom. Okay, and that now he's now seeing the overflow from
Yes.
that. So that is awesome. Great job, Dr. Carl. And I look forward to hearing and seeing all of what is coming next for Dr. Resilience. So much happening. Thank you so much for coming on the Destiny Exposure Summit.
What a pleasure and an honor always to share with that life ring and throwing a life ring out to someone who needs to be rescued.
I love it. Take care, Dr. Carl.
Thank you, Dr. Marcia.
And there you have it. That was Dr. Carl Barnes, also known as Dr. Resilience, here at the Destiny Exposure Summit, where speakers get to tell their story, they get to touch their tribe, and they get to expand their territory. I am Dr. Marcia, and I'm your host. Stay tuned for more. Take care.